Hey, I found out my boyfriend had a whole secret family, and the next morning, I went straight to his church. For 2 years, I thought I was in a real relationship with a man who just happened to live in another town and work a lot. Then I learned I was the side piece in a life he had carefully built to keep me invisible. I'd been with him for 2 years. He was older than me, charming in that quiet, dependable way, the kind of man who always sounded calm even when you were upset. We didn't live in the same town, which at first didn't seem like a red flag. He told me his work kept him busy during the week, so he'd usually come see me on weekends. He said he worked for a church, and he wore that like a badge of honor. He talked a lot about faith, about responsibility, about being a good man. Looking back, that part is what makes me feel the sickest, because he hid behind morality while lying to my face the entire time. In the beginning, I asked normal questions. Why couldn't I come visit him instead? Why had I never met his friends? Why was everything always arranged around his schedule? He always had an answer ready. He was private. His town was small and judgmental. His work at the church meant people were always in his business. He said he didn't want gossip or misunderstandings to affect his job. He made it sound like he was protecting both of us. And because I cared about him, because I wanted to be understanding, I accepted things I probably shouldn't have accepted. He'd text me every day, call me at night, spend weekends with me, bring food, help with errands, stay close, act affectionate. There was enough consistency to make me trust him. That's what really messed me up. This wasn't some obviously shady situation where a man vanished for weeks at a time and only called after midnight. He built a routine. He made himself part of my life. He remembered details. He held me when I cried. He talked about the future just vaguely enough to keep me hopeful. Every time something fell off, he'd smooth it over. I had never been to his home, never met anyone from his world, but after a while, I started repeating his excuses to myself before I even had to ask. That's how manipulation works when it's done slowly. About 3 weeks before everything blew up, a tiny thing happened that cracked the whole lie open. I can't even remember exactly what first made me look harder. I think it was a feeling more than anything. That exhausted feeling of trying to fit his explanations together and realizing they never fully lined up. I searched online in a way I hadn't before, with more patience, more suspicion. And then I found her, his wife. Not an ex-wife, not a separated partner he forgot to mention. His wife. Public pictures, family photos, smiling holiday posts. Him standing there with her and 2 kids, looking completely at home in the life he told me didn't exist. I remember just staring at my screen. My whole body went cold. It felt like my brain refused to catch up. I clicked through the account over and over like somehow the truth would change if I looked long enough. But there he was, her husband, their father, church man, family man, and my boyfriend, supposedly. I don't think I cried right away. I was too shocked. I felt humiliated before I even felt heartbroken. 2 years. 2 years of weekends, calls, intimacy, plans, excuses. And all that time he was leaving my place and going back to his wife and children. Once I got over that first numb wave, the anger came in hard. I confronted him carefully at first, without saying everything I knew. I wanted to see what he'd do. He lied instantly, smoothly, like breathing. He kept texting me as if I were stupid, as if he stayed consistent enough I'd doubt my own eyes. That part lit something up in me. If he had broken down and told the truth, maybe I would have just blocked him, fallen apart privately and tried to move on. But he looked me in the face, through those messages, and kept feeding me lies. I checked more, and the more I found, the worse it got. He wasn't separated. He wasn't in the middle of a divorce. There wasn't some complicated misunderstanding. He had a wife and 2 kids, and from everything I could see, they were a very active family in that church community he was always so proud of. He had built this fake version of himself for me while still enjoying the respect and image he had there. I started thinking about his wife constantly, not in a romantic rivalry way, but in a human way. Did she know? Had there been others before me? Was I the only one? Was he using church trips or work excuses to cover this up? How many times had he kissed his kids goodnight and then come spend the weekend with me? I felt sick, guilty, furious, and weirdly clear-headed all at once. I couldn't stop thinking. He gets to keep everything unless somebody breaks the silence. For about 3 weeks, I sat with it. We were still talking, if you can even call it that. I didn't break up with him right away, and I know some people wouldn't understand that, but I was trying to get my head around what had happened. Part of me needed confirmation over and over because the lie was so big it felt unreal. Another part of me was trying to decide what to do. I knew I was done with him. That part wasn't the question. The question was whether I was going to disappear quietly or make sure his carefully separated worlds finally collided. Every time he sent me another normal message, every time he acted casual, I got angrier. It wasn't just that he cheated, it was the arrogance of it. The confidence that I would never step outside the box he had put me in. The expectation that I'd stay hidden forever while he controlled the story. So I made a decision that honestly felt insane, even to me while I was doing it. I booked a hotel in his town for Saturday night. I told no one. Not friends, not family, nobody. I packed a bag and drove there with this knot in my stomach that never loosened the entire trip. He was still texting me while I was on the road, lying like usual, not knowing I was already in his town. I kept checking my phone at stoplights and feeling this mix of panic and adrenaline. I knew it could blow up in my face. Maybe no one would believe me. Maybe he'd get ahead of it somehow. Maybe I'd just end up humiliating myself more. But I also felt like I had already lost so much of my dignity by being dragged through this lie for 2 years. I wanted it back. I wanted one moment where I stopped being the hidden fool in his story. In the hotel that night, I barely slept. I kept pacing between the bed and the window, rehearsing what I would say. I went from rage to sadness to fear every 15 minutes. One second I wanted to expose everything in front of the whole congregation. The next second I thought, maybe I should just tell his wife quietly and leave. Then I'd think about how smug he'd been, how protected he was by his image, and I'd get that surge of certainty again. I wasn't planning to scream or make some wild scene. I just wanted to show up, to physically exist in the space he'd kept me out of, to let his family see me and know I was real. Sunday morning I got dressed and stared at myself in the mirror for a long time. I remember thinking, this is either going to be the moment I finally stand up for myself or the moment I completely lose it. I drove to the church early because I didn't know the area and I wanted time to breathe. The parking lot was already filling up. Families getting out of cars, kids in neat clothes, people greeting each other with smiles like every normal Sunday. I sat in my car gripping the steering wheel so tightly my hands hurt. I almost left more than once. Then I saw him. He was outside talking to people, dressed neatly, wearing that same respectable expression I'd seen so many times. And near him were a woman and 2 children, his wife and kids. Seeing them in real life after only seeing pictures hit me harder than I expected. Those weren't just details from a hidden profile anymore. They were real people, moving through their morning, completely unaware that their husband and father had been living a double life with me. I got out of the car before I could talk myself out of it. I walked toward the entrance, and I could feel my heart beating in my throat. At first, he didn't see me. I saw his wife glance in my direction the way people do when they're casually noticing someone unfamiliar. Then his eyes landed on me. I will never forget his face. It was like all the blood drained out of him at once. He looked confused for half a second, then terrified. That was the first honest expression I think I'd ever seen from him. He started toward me fast, trying to intercept me before I got any closer. He said my name in this tight, urgent voice and asked what I was doing there, as if I was the one behaving unbelievably. I told him calmly that I was there because I knew. He kept trying to pull me aside, whispering that this wasn't the place, that we needed to talk privately. That just made me angrier. 2 years of secrecy, and even then, his first instinct was still containment. Still control. His wife had noticed by then. Anybody would have. You don't need a dramatic outburst for people to sense when something is very wrong. She walked over with that look people get when they're trying to stay composed but already know the answer won't be good. She asked who I was. He opened his mouth, probably to lie again, but I answered before he could. I told her I had been in a relationship with her husband for 2 years, and I had only recently learned he was married with children. I said I didn't know about them, not until a few weeks earlier, and I came because I thought she deserved the truth. Everything after that felt both blurry and painfully sharp. I remember silence first. Then his wife looking at him instead of me, like she was waiting for him to deny it convincingly. He started saying pieces of things, none of them plain enough to be a real defense. He said I was confused. He said it wasn't what it sounded like. He said we had history, which was such a disgusting understatement I almost laughed. I told her he had been staying with me on weekends. I told her he had let me believe we were exclusive. I told her he lied right up until that week, even after I already knew. I kept my voice as steady as I could because I wanted her to hear the facts, not just emotion. People nearby were definitely noticing by then. Not a massive crowd, not some movie moment, but enough that the safe little separation he had built was gone. His church life and his secret life had touched. His wife looked devastated, but also not completely shocked in the way I expected. That detail stayed with me. It made me wonder if there had already been cracks, other lies, other suspicions. She asked me a couple of direct questions, and I answered them. How long? 2 years. Did I know about her? No. Did I have proof? Yes. I had messages, photos, dates. I told her I would show her anything she needed. He got more desperate at that point, angry under the panic. He said I was trying to ruin his life. And I remember looking at him and thinking, no, you did that all by yourself. I said something close to that, though probably less polished, because by then my hands were shaking. One of the church staff members came over, clearly realizing a private disaster was unfolding in public. He tried to guide us away from the entrance. His wife agreed, and honestly I was relieved, because standing there in front of strangers was starting to feel unreal. We moved to a quieter side area. She asked to see my phone. I showed her enough to make it undeniable. Messages, plans, the kind of intimate, everyday communication that can't be waved away as a misunderstanding. I watched her face change as she scrolled. I hated that I was the one delivering that pain, but I hated even more that he had put both of us there. He kept trying to interrupt, trying to explain, trying to turn every concrete fact into something vague. At one point, she told him to stop talking. It was the only real moment of power anyone had over him all morning, and he looked stunned. I told her I was ending it, that I had no interest in staying connected to him, and that if she wanted every piece of information I had, she could have it. I said I was sorry, not in a guilty way, but in the only honest way I could be. Sorry that she was hearing this from me.
Sorry that he had lied to us both. Sorry that her children were going to be affected by choices they had nothing to do with. She didn't lash out at me. If anything, she looked at me like I was just another piece of damage he had caused. That somehow hurt more. I left after that because there was nothing else for me to do. I had shown up. I had told the truth. I had ended it right there. As I walked back to my car, my entire body felt weak, like all the adrenaline had drained out at once. I sat there and cried harder than I had since finding out. Not because I missed him. That part was dead. I cried because the reality of the last 2 years finally landed all the way. The man I loved never actually existed the way I thought he did. He was a performance held together by distance, timing, and lies. He texted me after I left, of course, first angry, then pleading, then blaming. He said I had no right to come there. He said I humiliated him. He said I should have handled it privately. That was rich, coming from a man who handled our entire relationship as a secret fraud. I didn't engage. For once, I didn't need answers from him. I blocked him. Later that day, his wife reached out. Short message. She asked me to send the evidence directly to her, so I did. No extra commentary, just everything relevant in one place. She thanked me, which I honestly didn't know how to process. I didn't feel noble. I felt shattered and angry and embarrassed and relieved all at once. I never wanted to be in the position of exposing someone's marriage. I wanted the relationship I thought I had. But that was never real, and once I knew that, staying quiet would have made me feel complicit in his lie. I still don't know exactly what happened in their home after that. I don't know whether she stayed, whether the church found out the full story, whether he tried to spin it into something else. I do know his worlds collided in a way he never thought they would. And for the first time since discovering the truth, I didn't feel powerless. I felt wrecked, yes, but not erased. The part that still bothers me is how easily a person can build two lives if everyone around them is trained to only see the version that benefits them. He counted on my trust. He counted on her routine. He counted on the church image. He counted on distance. Most of all, he counted on silence. And for 2 years, that worked. Then one Sunday morning, it didn't.